Welcome to part 2 of the presentation on team collaboration with System Architect. We've already covered the background, the scenario and the setup and configuration. Now we're going to look at the workflow. Prior to the demo, we're going to assume Team 1 has already populated some work into the encyclopedia. We'll be starting from this point. So Team 1 and Team 2 have child workspaces created from the master. The master is locked, and the master is the published architecture. Now, Team 1 will be working on their project in the Team 1 workspace, and Team 2 will be working on their project in the Team 2 workspace. Both teams are able to see the other workspaces and are able to go into them, but they will not be able to edit them. So our story begins with Team 1 working on their project. We're logged in as User 1, a member of Team 1, and we're just going to go into our team's workspace. Now the project Team 1's working on is to catalogue the locations, the aim being to determine when these locations are compliant for security. We have some locations already in here. We'll add a new one for Warwick. And we can edit this, give it a description. And we're going to decide that this location will be depicted by a building. Okay, we can save that. And while we're editing these, we'll give Chicago an effective date for its compliance. Edit that, pick a date, and save. And what we want to do is see the various locations. We'll pick a few of them. Put them on a diagram. Okay, let's just put this over here so we got it all on screen. We have our 3 locations on there. Let's select Bangalore. We said that the effective date that this will be security compliant is the 1st of December. We've got New York as the 10th of January 2011. Warwick we haven't given a date for yet, so let's set that. So the effective date will be February the 14th. Why not? Now one thing we can do is we can visualize this over time. So we just need to select the diagram. So you compare, and it comes up with diagram compare options, time-based compare. We want to use the effective date. We get our diagram on there, and a little zoom bar along the top. And if we bring this right back, there we are. We can see time as it progresses through and the different locations as they become compliant. Now I'll close this down. Now there is another way that we can visualize which locations are compliant. We can use the heat map manager. Now we've already created some analytics to help us here, ones that will run a report using the effective date property and determine whether something is compliant or not. We can give it an icon, which we've already selected. And we're going to create an analytic collection for this called compliance. Okay. Then we have an is compliant one. We want to add one for not compliant. And again, we'd already configured the icon for this. We'd like to add it to the existing analytic collection. What we can do now is choose the analytics we'd like to use and run them. So now it's added our analytics to the diagram. If we just zoom in a bit, we can see it's added us a legend. And next to our various locations, we can see that currently Bangalore is compliant, but New York and Warwick aren't compliant. This is a neat little way to bring information from the properties onto a diagram for visualization. The team are almost ready to publish their work, but before they do this, they'd like to review the changes that they've made to this project. They can do this by using the Object History pane. This tool allows you to see the changes that have happened in the encyclopedia during its lifetime. There are two levels of granularity. The more detailed level will show all of the changes that have occurred, even within the same workspace. Or, as has been used here, the workspace history will show just the changes from one workspace to the next. So let's have a look at some of the options. Where was it modified? We're interested in things that have changed in this project, so things that have changed in this workspace. These are all the items that have changed. So we'd like to filter this down a little so that we can see just the locations. And if we take a look at Chicago, one of the ones which we modified, click Compare, we can see the changes that we made. If we click Show Only Differences, we can see just the differences. So we see that the effective date was added by us. The ability to validate the changes that have been made is extremely useful and will enable a team to be satisfied that the changes to their project are indeed the ones that they wish to submit to the published architecture. Additional filtering is available so that you can see the changes that have occurred within certain time periods, for instance, within the last day. So the team is happy with the changes that they've made. Now they notify their administrator that they wish to do a merge, as they do not have access to the published architecture. So let's now switch to being the administrator and take on their role. To prepare for the check-in, the administrator creates another child workspace of the master. Now they select the workspace for Team 1 and say they wish to extract. They choose the master workspace to merge into, specify they want all of the changes, wish deletions processed, and hit Finish. The administrator will just switch to the new master workspace to verify that the changes were merged successfully. They can choose the history, so they're interested in modifications in the current workspace, and hit search. We'll filter down again to locations, if we look again at Chicago and hit compare, we can see the changes that were made by Team 1. Now the administrator needs to prepare a new project workspace for Team 1 to work in. So we'll switch to Encyclopedia Manager. In Encyclopedia Manager, we've selected the required encyclopedia. We choose Manage Workspaces. It's good practice to baseline both the source and target following a merge to ensure that both are in a known state at a given point in time. So we'll baseline the master and baseline the team. So Master V2 is now the published architecture. Here is a summary of what we've just seen. The administrator has created a Master V2 workspace, which they've merged Team 1's work into. Those two workspaces have then been baselined. In the meantime, Team 2 has been busy with their project. Now while Team 1's been working, Team 2 have been busy sorting out the technology. So let's flip to them. Team 2 is looking at technology, specifically when the networks can go live. Now they've noticed the Explorer contains a lot more information than is relevant to their project, so they can construct a view. We add a pane to the Explorer, optionally selecting images. Since this is the blue team, we'll have blue people. We can add dynamic views to the pane. We choose the Dynamic View tab, and here we can add the reports which will define what is going to be displayed in the view. So for the diagram report, we want all diagrams where permitted to read-write is set to Team 2. Likewise for the definitions, we want definitions where permitted to read-write is set to Team 2. The view will refresh, and inside it we can see we have our diagrams and our definitions. So Team 2 has added 3 networks: the India network, the UK network and the US network. And for each one, they've again set an effective date. This is the date with which the network would be ready. Similarly, they've created an Explorer diagram, which again we could show the change over time using the diagram comparison. This team's ready to merge its work in, so let's go ahead and see what the changes are. Again, we drop down the object history. We're interested in the current workspace, and we hit search. Not many changes here. As we can see, they're essentially what's been shown in the view. So we'll pass it over to the administrator to merge in. So once again, the administrator goes into Manage Workspaces, picks the master project, creates a new child to merge into, Master v3, selects Team 2's workspace to merge from. Again, he validates the changes. When the changes have been reviewed and the administrator is happy, the merge can commence. So Tools, Extract. Choose the master workspace. All changes. Process deletions and hit Finish. And if we just change the new master, we can validate that the changes went through okay. Now once again, the administrator is going to baseline the master workspace and Team 2's project work. Flipping to Encyclopedia Manager and selecting the desired encyclopedia, we go Manage Workspaces, choose the master, baseline it, choose Team 2's workspace and baseline that. Now the technology work's gone into the master architecture. Team 1 wishes to do some further work. In order to facilitate this, Team 1 requires another workspace for their project. So we select the master workspace and create a new child. It's important to note that any new workspaces should originate from the master and not the project. This ensures that any external updates to the architecture have been captured. In this instance, the work of Team 2 is required. Having created the child workspace, we should go into Catalog Manager now to set up the permissions. In Catalog Manager, we can see the new workspaces, Master v3, and the child of that, Team 1 v3. Master v3 will not need any additional permissions as it will take the defaults for the encyclopedia, that is, read-only for all but the administrator. However, the Team 1 workspace will require Team 1's permissions adding to it. So we'll add Team 1. We'll add the administrator role. And we'll assign the administrator role to Team 1. Finally, we need to publish the views in order for the changes to take effect. In summary, what we've seen is the administrator create the master v2 workspace. They've merged Team 2's work in, locked Team 2's workspace and the master, so master v3 is now the published architecture. The administrator has then created another project workspace for Team 1 to continue their work in. With the technologies available, India network, UK network, US network, Team 1 would like to link the locations to the networks. Let's choose one of the locations, Bangalore. We'd like to have a look at the diagram. The references window will find it for us. Bangalore is going to be linked with the India network. So let's edit the definition. Choose the India network and save. Do the same for New York. And Warwick. Now we'd like to see the networks on this diagram and see how they relate to the locations. Let's just change the view. Seeing them as simple boxes but with adornments showing what their original representation was. Now we've created an Explorer relationship report, Locations Using Technology. This report will show up in the heat map manager when we open it up. And here we can see Locations Using Technology. If we select that, our diagram is instantly updated to reflect the information that we've just added. So we can see the India network, US network and UK network in their respective locations. We're just going to save that. Now what we'd like to do is see over time when these networks come online and when the locations are compliant. So we choose Compare Diagrams. And as before, select Certified Locations. Again, it comes up recognizing the effective date. And up comes our diagram. Let's wind the scroll bar back. So initially the Bangalore location is compliant. After a period of time, the India network comes online. And this is okay because the Bangalore location is compliant. Oh, but the US network is now available, but the New York location isn't yet compliant. This could be a problem. As we see a little later, the New York location is now compliant. And if we keep going, we'll see the Warwick location is compliant and its network is available. So running this through has highlighted the fact that the US network goes online before the New York location is actually compliant. So we discovered that we had a problem with our plan. What would be useful would be to find out this information on a static diagram without having to go through the animation. In order to do this, we'll add another analytic to the heat map manager. This is one that we've actually created earlier. This time we're going to give it a red color. And we're going to add it to our compliance section. Now instead of using a report, this analytic is actually using a macro to do some calculations behind the scenes. If we select Online Early, and run. Just zoom in. We'll see New York has been highlighted in red, as this failed the compliance test. It's these type of analytics which bring meaning from the data that have been entered into your architecture. Finally, we're going to correct the error in our plan. So if we select New York, we can see that our New York location uses the technology US network. So let's select US network and try to correct the effective date. We're unable to do this as we're a user of Team 1. Now Team 1 isn't responsible for the technology, only the locations. So in this instance, Team 1 would either have to notify the other team that their network was coming online too early, or bring forward the compliance date for their location. In this instance, we'll bring forward the compliance date for our location. So we'll select New York, change the compliance date to the 1st of January. And now we'll find that both dates match. Let's reopen the heat map manager. And rerun our compliance report. This time New York stays its normal color and doesn't go red. So we've corrected our architecture. So in summary, Workspaces have allowed our teams to work in separate project spaces. They've been able to work together as a team, but be isolated from other teams. The Workspaces have allowed us to see the changes that a project will impose on the architecture. These changes can be reviewed before being committed to the architecture. The projects have been merged into the master when they're ready. In our demo, we saw how Team 1's work went into the master workspace, whilst Team 2 continued to work, and Team 2 could merge their work in when they're ready. We saw how new projects are always created from the master workspace. This enables changes from other teams to be seen and used, effectively meaning that collaboration occurs from published versions of projects, so people are not working against projects which are not yet complete. This concludes the demonstration. Thank you for listening.